JoJo Siwa recently underwent a total rebrand in which she attempted to shed her kid entertainer image and appeal to a more adult audience, which honestly didn't bother me too much. I was just kind of like, okay, JoJo's a little bit odd, she's a little bit cringe, but none of my business really, until she started making damaging statements towards the LGBT community with claims that she invented gay pop.
I wanted to start a new genre of music, and they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's called gay pop.
Yelling and swearing at kids whilst performing at Pride.
Bitches, there is a 6-year-old right there. Why the fuck are you here?
And much, much more. And quite ironically, while JoJo Siwa has been relying on cheap gimmicks and bad dance moves, expecting to become a queer icon, it's actually Billie Eilish who has done somewhat of a rebrand, or not really a rebrand, more of a pivot, and has been making more songs about being queer, and as a result has ended up as a queer icon. And I just know that JoJo Siwa was screaming, crying, throwing up when Lunch went to #2, and Billie Eilish's feature on Guess with Charlie XCX went to #1 on the dance charts. But before we get into how Billie Eilish did what JoJo Siwa couldn't, let's talk about all the ways that JoJo Siwa ego and just willful ignorance has turned a lot of the LGBT community, myself included, against her. So in my previous video, I covered how JoJo Siwa said that she created gay pop.
It's called gay pop.
So I'm not gonna go fully into that again. I do recommend checking out that video if you haven't already seen it. But the Spark Notes version is that JoJo Siwa came out and said that she has invented a new genre of music called gay pop.
It's called gay pop.
Gay pop has existed since the 1800s, and it's extremely damaging for JoJo to ignore all the people who came before her, sacrificed and worked so hard to be able to make gay pop. So on my previous video, one of the top comments was from someone informing me that they stopped caring about JoJo Siwa and they stopped supporting her after JoJo Siwa apparently said that the word lesbian was gross. So I hadn't heard of this before, and I was absolutely floored and was like, surely JoJo has not gone out of her way to say that lesbian is a gross word, right? Well, I did my research and she kind of did. So in an interview, JoJo Siwa said,
I don't like the word itself. It's just like lesbian. It's just like a lot. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I am. So it's like, it just is, it's like the word moist. It's just like, ugh.
And this entire interview was just like incredibly cringeworthy, and I just found myself like covering my eyes when I was watching it, especially when JoJo was talking about how she doesn't like the word lesbian. Because I understand what JoJo was trying to say here. There's a lot of words that a lot of us don't like how they sound. Like moist, or for me personally, I hate the word curd. It sends chills up my spine. I do not like it. But it's a very different thing to say that you don't like the words curd or moist versus saying that you don't like the word lesbian.
Ugh.
A term that lesbians have fought so incredibly hard for years to take back as our own after it's a word that's been used as a derogatory term for so long. And just say, I don't like the word lesbian, it's just like, ugh. It does come across as JoJo saying that she doesn't like the word lesbian, even though I know that's not what she meant.
Ugh.
Because as it seems with everything with JoJo Siwa, saying she doesn't like the word lesbian, saying she invented gay pop, could have been avoided with just the smallest touch of research or knowledge about the LGBT community and all those who came before her. But I did the research for JoJo instead, and I am now going to explain to us all why saying that the word lesbian is yuck is extremely damaging, even if that's not what she intended it to be. So for a very long time, lesbian was considered a dirty word. Homophobia is real, and a lot of people for a long time, and some people still do, looked down on lesbians as less than, and even calling them nasty names like fish. So during the peak of the second wave of feminism, campaigners were often demonized as bra-burning, man-hating lesbians who were actively plotting society's downfall. Now, were these women who were dating other women? Most of the time, no. Because these were women that were fighting for equal rights, these yucky men, of course, deemed all these women as less than and claimed that they must be lesbians because no self-respecting man would ever marry these women. And this is actually where the stereotype of lesbians being ugly came from. As again, it was just men with bruised egos saying, well, these must be a bunch of lesbians and they're ugly because no men would ever marry them. And as such, lesbian was considered a dirty word. Then during the starting of the gay rights movement, it was mainly gay men who were running the show. And a lot of the focuses were actually on gay men's issues, whilst lesbians and trans people's issues were really pushed to the side. And it really wasn't until the AIDS epidemic happened that things began to change. It was the lesbian community who really stepped up and provided medical care and were heavily involved in the activism surrounding the gay community and AIDS at the time. And it was this willingness of the lesbian community to help out the gay men community in their time of need that fostered a supportive relationship between the two. And from here, it's where the word lesbian was slowly starting to be reclaimed and no longer used as a dirty word. And fun fact, this is actually why the L is the start of the LGBTQ, because of all the work that lesbians did to help with the AIDS epidemic. However, discrimination against lesbians is still rampant, and homophobia of course still exists. I mean, need I remind you, you that gay marriage was only legalized in the United States in 2015 and Australia in 2017. That is not that long ago. I mean, even me, I got a job in Dubai last year, and when they found out that I was openly a lesbian, I no longer had the job. So discrimination against lesbians still happens to this day and has been for a very long time. So this is why when JoJo then did an interview where she's flippantly said like, oh, I don't like the word lesbian, it is just so damaging. And I know that that's not what she meant. I know that she was just saying that she doesn't like how the word sounds. However, unfortunately, her words do have consequences. And what she said was extremely damaging to the years and years of sacrifices and hard work lesbians have put in to reclaim this word. And it's just even more absurd that it was in this exact same interview that JoJo Siwa that she was a queer icon.
Being the face of the LGBTQ young demographic, young age, younglings, it's about being honored with that. It's something that I've been appointed by, not myself, by just the world, calling me a gay icon, calling me this generation's icon. That is an honor that I do not take lightly.
In my opinion, a queer icon would not turn their nose up at the word lesbian.
Ugh.
They wouldn't claim that they created gay pop.
Called gay pop.
And they also just wouldn't call themselves a queer icon. I feel like that's something people say about you don't say about yourself. Unfortunately, JoJo's antics have turned a lot of the LGBTQ community against her, and I think it's disappointing because she really did have potential to be a queer icon, which she so desperately wants. She just did everything wrong. So whilst JoJo Siwa was out here claiming that she made gay pop, it's actually been Billie Eilish that has really been gaining so much attention and has been moving into the realm of queer icon. And she was able to do this by doing something that JoJo Siwa couldn't. Getting people to like and respect her. And Billie's queer journey is actually really interesting. So she was obviously an extremely successful musician, one of the most popular in the world, and she did an interview with Variety in which she said that she was physically attracted to women but is intimidated by their beauty and presence, which I'm sure all lesbians or anyone that likes women can relate to. Women are gorgeous, but oh my god, they are so scary and intimidating. Now this comment that Billie made quite casually made headlines everywhere, saying that Billie Eilish had confirmed that she was attracted to women. And it was not much later that Billie Eilish was actually then put on the spot on red carpet by Variety and asked if she meant to come out in that interview.
Billie, did you mean to come out in the story?
Girl, no I didn't, but I kind of thought, wasn't it obvious? It's kind of been, I didn't realize people didn't know, so.
We need to get to a point where you don't even have to come out, so.
I just don't really believe in it. I'm just like, why can't we just exist? I've been doing this for a long time and I just didn't talk about it.
And honestly, it's kind of an uncomfortable interview to watch, as it kind of seemed like Billie didn't really want to be talking about this, and she later confirmed this on her Instagram, making a post that said, "Thanks Variety for giving me an award and outing me on the red carpet at 11 AM instead of talking about anything else that matters. I like boys and girls, now leave me alone about it please." And Billie Eilish then spoke to Rolling Stone about it, where she said, "Who cares? The whole world suddenly decided who I was and I didn't get a say in anything or any control of it. Nobody should be pressured into being one thing or another, and I think there's a lot of wanting labels all over the place. Dude, I've known people that don't know their sexuality or feel comfortable with it until they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s. It takes a while to find yourself, and I think it's really unfair the way the internet bullies you into talking about who you are and what you are." And Billie was so incredibly real for this, and this was a message that a lot of queer people related to, as the majority of queer people, myself included, know the fear of being outed. And if it did unfortunately ever happen to you, you know the exact feeling that Billie had on that red carpet when she's being put on the spot, asked about it, and just kind of panicking and being like, I don't really want to talk about it.
Did you mean to come out in the story?
Girl.
And Billie's queer journey and queer story was one that really resonated with a lot of people and gave a true and accurate representation of what it's really like to be queer. And this is not to say that JoJo Siwa didn't have her own struggles. She did. When she wanted to come out, she was apparently told by multiple executives in the entertainment industry that it was not a good idea. But see, this is my issue with JoJo, is that she's had all of these problems. She's had these people be awful to her about her sexuality, and then she comes out and says, I invented gay pop and I don't like the word lesbian. Ugh. It just does not make sense to me why that is the route you would choose. But we can't talk about Billie Eilish and her coming out / queer journey without talking about queerbaiting. Now, if you don't know what queerbaiting is, the definition is the incorporation of apparently gay or same-sex characters, relationships into a film, television show, etc. as a means of appealing to gay and bisexual audiences while maintaining ambiguity about the character's sexuality. It's basically an attempt to capitalize on the LGBTQ without actually giving any representation that they promise. But, and this is a big but, this definition has been stretched out and twisted and warped and abused to the point where the definition situation, it just doesn't really make much sense anymore, as people such as Billie Eilish are being accused of queerbaiting, and people are getting bullied by the internet and absolutely ripped to shreds online for queerbaiting, and are forced to come out when maybe they don't feel comfortable to yet, just like Billie Eilish did in her Variety interview. Frederick Chen actually made a really good video about this, so I'll have it linked down below if you want to learn more about queerbaiting and how accusing people of queerbaiting can be really damaging. But Billie Eilish was a victim of this, especially when she released the music video for her song Lost Cause, as when Billie Eilish posted an Instagram photo with a bunch of girls from the music video with the caption "I love girls," she was bombarded with hate from the internet accusing her of queerbaiting. Meanwhile, Billie is and was queer and was actually just sharing what she was comfortable with at the time. And I really feel for Billie. I can't imagine feeling super pressured that you have to come out, or even being accused of queerbaiting when you're actually queer but just haven't felt the need to tell everyone yet.
I've been doing this for a long time and I just didn't talk about it.
I don't know, I just think shaming anyone for their sexuality because it doesn't meet your standard is gross, queerbaiting included. But Billie Eilish has recently really solidified herself as a queer icon, and her technique was something JoJo couldn't achieve: musical talent. So on May 17th of this year, Billie Eilish released Lunch, which went incredibly viral, and it is a saucy song about another woman. So this actually reached #2 on the Billboard chart and is currently sitting at 439 million streams. And then on August 1st, this is my personal favorite because Billie Eilish jumped on Charli XCX's remix of her song Guess. So Charli's album Brat has already been doing phenomenally worldwide and is part of like gay pop, and the remix of her song Guess with Billie Eilish was received really well by critics and soared to #1 on the electronic and dance charts. And everything that Billie Eilish did by releasing Lunch and the Guess remix was everything that JoJo Siwa was lacking. Her EP was not good. This is not me being mean either. No one is going out of their way to stream JoJo Siwa's music. No one's adding her music to their playlists, and no one is there going, "Oh, look guys, I know that like JoJo Siwa, you know, bit cringe, whatever, but her music is actually good." No, the music is not performing well. Yet JoJo claims to have invented gay pop.
Called gay pop.
Meanwhile, Billie Eilish is releasing gay pop kind of music without relying on bad dance moves to generate rage bait, and without trying to completely erase all of the queer artists that came before her.
Called gay pop.
Instead, she was just true to herself and showcased her talent. I don't even think she set out with the goal to be a queer icon like JoJo Siwa. I think instead she just happens to be queer and happens to be an icon through her musical talent. And as the saying goes, the numbers don't lie. Billie Eilish and Charli XCX released the Guess remix under a month ago and it's already sitting at 66 million streams. Whilst JoJo Siwa's most popular song Karma was released in April and is currently sitting at 23 million streams. Now, don't get me wrong, 23 million streams is nothing to sneeze at. But all of her cheap antics and stabs at her own community that JoJo had to do in order to achieve these streams was not sustainable and in the end wasn't worth it. Ugh. She no longer has a strong fan base as she's lost everyone's respect, and it shows. The second song of her EP was released, which is called Guilty Pleasure, and it only has 1.1 million views, which is a steep drop from Karma. And even worse, her third single, Yesterday's Tomorrow's Today, is currently sitting at 260,000 streams. And it just goes to show that artistry and humility always comes first. If you have genuine talent and love your community like Billie Eilish does, they will support you. And also, just as a quick side note, if you've seen Billie Eilish and Charli XCX's music video for Guess, you'd know there was a lot of underwear in it. And it turns out that they actually donated 10,000 pairs of these underwear to support victims of domestic violence. How good is that? And this is what I mean by just genuinely being a good person and giving back to your community. You're gonna be able to go a lot further than claiming you created gay pop and saying that you don't like the word lesbian. And I think JoJo Siwa has a lot to learn. She is 21, so she is quite young, but actually Billie Eilish is not much older than her, so I don't know, I just think that JoJo could really look at Billie Eilish for some advice and see how to be a queer icon that genuinely loves their audience and produces good music. And this is not me pitting two women against each other by any means. Instead, I think that actually one of the perks of the music industry is that there's enough space for everyone. Billie Eilish and JoJo Siwa can both be amazing, incredible musicians that are thriving. And Billie Eilish's streams on her latest like gay pop / queer songs are showing that there is a demand for it, that we want to hear more songs that are about the queer experience. And I do think that JoJo Siwa could tap into this market if she stopped saying wild statement after wild statement about the LGBT community and instead focused on creating good quality music. The potential is there and we love a comeback. I would love to see JoJo Siwa just like pause for a second, reflect inwards and think before she speaks and go back to making like good music. But I'm gonna call my rant there today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel because I upload new videos every single week. Apologies that I didn't post last week. My grandfather passed away. Also, if you want to see my short form content, be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I'll have the links down below. Like always, I love you guys so much. I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye. Mwah.